So the first thing we need to do is to download the exercise files, and exercise files are available at github.com/ssd-tutorials. And at the moment, the repository that we are interested in is the first one, but obviously with the time, that's gonna go lower down the list. So you can search for it by simply filtering the results, typing register-login, and there we go. That's the only one now displayed on the list. So if we click on this one, and you can either fork it and then clone it to your local machine, or simply download the zipped file. And this is what I'm going to do. So if we click on download zip, now if we go back to our file browser, and if we double click it to unzip the files, there we go. One thing you will notice if we scroll up here, you'll see that we don't see this .env.example and .gitignore. If you're on Windows, you probably see these files, but on a Mac you won't be able, because all files starting with a full stop on the Mac are hidden files. So if we open our terminal, and I'm going to navigate to my downloads directory, so ~, then /downloads, ls to see all the files and directories, and this is what we have there. So I'm going to navigate to this directory which you've just extracted, so cd register login and so on. Now ls here, we obviously can't see these invisible files, but if I do ls-a, and I'm going to also add L flag because I want them listed as a list, and there we go. You can see now we have this .env.example and .gitignore. Now .gitignore you may not need, but I will keep it because I will be saving this project to the repository after each video to keep track of all the changes. .env.example is the one that you definitely need, so we need to copy all these files to our project root directory. And how are we gonna do it? Let's quickly go back to our Finder browser. Obviously, if you're on Windows, you can pretty much drag everything across to your project's root directory because you will see this .env and .gitignore, so you can obviously select them as well and then drag them across. On Mac, obviously, it's going to be slightly different. So what we can do now is I need to navigate to my project's root directory first of all, which is going to be called login. As you can see at the moment, it's an empty directory. And what I want to do is first of all find out what the path to this directory is. So I'm going to open a new terminal window, and I'll simply go back to the Finder and drag this directory onto the terminal, and that tells me the precise path to this directory. Okay, so I copy this directory, and then what I'm going to do is to move all these files over there. So I'm going to use the mv command with *, this wild character, because I want to select all of the files and then the path to where I want to send them. Now, one thing that's going to happen when I'm going to hit return, it will copy nearly all of the files, because by default move doesn't select the hidden files. So .env example and .gitignore won't be copied in the sense that obviously it's going to be moved, it's going to be cut and pasted into this new directory. So I'm going to hit return, and if we do now ls-al, you'll see that these hidden files are still here. So what I'm going to do now is strictly specify that I want this .env and .gitignore to be also moved to this directory. So mv command again, but this time I'm specifying exactly which files after the space I want to move to which directory, destination directory. So hit return now, and if we do now ls-al, you'll see the directory is empty, so we can go up one level. And if we do ls again, there we go, our directory and a zipped file is here as well, so we can remove them. Also rm, rf, rflag to make sure that it's removing recursively, because obviously this is a directory, this is not just the file, so it needs to remove all the files from within the directory as well. F, because I don't want to be prompt asking whether I'm sure I want to do it. And then wild character after the space. Actually, rather than this, let's just start register, login, and so on, and then wild character. So it's only actually going to remove the files that start with this long string, which is going to apply to only these two. If you have any other files within this directory, they won't be removed. And hit return. And now ls, as you can see, directory is empty. Okay, now I'm going to navigate to the directory where my project is. So cd code in my case, and then cd login, which is the directory when I'm keeping my project. And now if I do ls-al, you'll see that all of the files are listed here. We have this .env example and .gitignore as well. This .idea is just basically because I'm using PHP Storm, it generates this directory on its own. Don't worry about it, you probably won't see it if you use any other IDE. And then obviously all the other files that were within the repository. Now, if you are unsure about all these terminal interactions here, then what you could alternatively do is copy all these files by dragging and dropping them into your project's root directory, and then just click on this, go back to this repository, click on this .env example, create the file with this name, and then simply copy what's within this file. Just select everything and copy this, all the content into this file. Same for the git ignore if you're going to use it. If not, you can ignore this file altogether. But we definitely need this .env.example. Okay, so now I'm going to navigate back to my project. And my project now has all these files, obviously, which we've copied earlier. The first thing we need to do is to install all the dependencies, which are stored within the composer.json. Let me just quickly explain what these dependencies are. The first one, Illuminate Database, is basically the eloquent object relational mapper, which is a simple active record implementation. Will allow us to easily interact with the database rather than us writing the new database class and so on. We have everything out of the box. The next thing is the Illuminate Support, which comes with a collection. Really nice way of playing with the arrays and so on. And then it also will provide some some methods which allow us to generate some random strings and so on. Then we have the HTTP package, which allows us to interact with the requests, getting whatever is being sent to the application, whether it's through GET, POST, or anything else. This package will handle all this for us. Then we have this string converter. String converter will allow us to convert between different string formats. Then we have .env, which allows us to register and interact with environment variables, retrieving them, checking if they exist, and so on. Then we have a Blade package, which will allow us to render our views using Blade templating engine. And then we have Swift Mailer to process all our email distribution. And then we have Nesbit Carbon, which is basically going to allow us to play with dates, format them in a specific way, and so on. And then we have development dependencies. PHP units to write some of the tests that we're going to write for our application. So these are all our PHP dependencies. We can now close the composer.json. We also have package.json, which stores all our JavaScript dependencies. And what I'm going to be using, I'm using actually Foundation sites for this project, but again, you can use any styling you want. I'm using gulp packages, so I can actually process my SAS files because I'm using SAS here. If we go to resources, then assets, SCSS directory, and you'll see all the files which I'm using here. If you want to modify anything, feel free and then just run gulp. We have a gulp file ready as well with all these files included and so on. And then I'm using jQuery and SSD form, which is a jQuery plugin for validating and submitting form using Ajax. So if we close this, but again, if you're familiar with, let's say, Vue or AngularJS or any other jQuery plugin or anything else that you prefer over what I'm going to be using here, feel free. Obviously, that's not that important when it comes to this course. The PHP side is what's actually going to be processing everything. That's everything when it comes to all the dependencies. So let's quickly install our Composer PHP dependencies first by going to the terminal and from within the root of our project, pwd, just to make sure that I'm inside of the root of my project, and I am, this login directory here, as you can see. So what I'm going to do is run composer install, and this will take a few seconds to install. There we go, everything is done. Command K on my keyboard to clear the screen, and when I refresh the project, you can see that the vendor directory has been added with all these dependencies, and then composer log has also been generated. So our dependencies for the composer are now installed. Let's now go back and install all our npm dependencies. So npm install, and this will take a little bit longer. That will generate the node underscore modules directory on the left hand side. You'll see in just a second. And all this has already installed as well, so I can clear the screen. Command K again. As you can see, node modules directory is listed here. So if I wanted to change any of the styling, for instance, if I go to resources, assets, SCSS, change some colors or anything like it, obviously feel free to play with all these colors and settings, and then even go to obviously layout if you're not happy with something. and change it accordingly. Then just run gulp from within the terminal, from within the root of your project, just gulp, hit return, and that will obviously process all the files, generate new CSS and JavaScript files. Okay, now let's quickly open a browser and navigate to whatever you've set up your virtual host as. I've set it up already. I've shown this so many times. If you are not sure how to set up virtual hosts, please check one of my previous courses. If you're unsure where it is, just ask the question under the video and I'll point you in the right direction again. Okay, mine one is going to be login.dev, and at the moment it's just a blank page, because what I have here is inside of the public directory, I have this index which is completely blank. This is where it's pointing. So my virtual host isn't actually pointing to the login directory, it points to the public directory. This is the root, basically root in a sense that our index.php file, which should be fetched when we actually call in the domain, or in our case virtual host domain, is going to be pointing. So not login, it's going to be within a login public directory. Let me just quickly show you how you do it on mum, for instance. So I've got mum pro installed here, just a plus symbol, server name. I want it to be, say, login.dev, and then document root. If I click on this directory here, you can see I can now navigate to my project, which is login, and then within this project we have this public directory, which is where our index.php is. So I'm choosing this directory for the document root. Then you can obviously click save and start the mump pro. But I'm not using mump pro, I'm actually using Homestead. So if I go back to the terminal, and for the Homestead, I'm just going to quickly use my shortcut here to edit Homestead file. Basically, if I scroll down, you can see I have it already set up. It's login.dev, and it points to home vagrant code, and then login directory and a public directory within this project. So that's how I've got my Homestead set up here. Okay, we have htaccess file here already as well for mode rewrite. If you're on Apache, I'm running this on Homestead, so I'm on engines. That file doesn't really matter here. But if you're on Apache, you again are all set. You don't have to play with any rewriting or anything like this. Then we have assets, obviously, which are generated when we are running gulp command. So every time you change something within a CSS files or JavaScript files and then run gulp, these files will be regenerated. And that's pretty much it in this video. I think we've got everything set up, so we're ready to start working with the code, which is what we're going to start doing in the following video.